Hello and welcome to Postcards, our weekly look at the art, history, and cultural heritage of Western Minnesota and beyond.
On this episode of Postcards, we celebrate 10 years of delivering stories that highlight a variety of Minnesotan history, art, and culture. Featured in this look back are just a handful of the more than 350 stories that have been shown in past Postcards episodes. Postcards is made possible by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota. Additional support provided by Margaret A. Cargill Philanthropies, Mark and Margaret Yakel-Julien on behalf of Shalom Hill Farms, a retreat and conference center in a prairie setting near Windham, Minnesota, on the web at shalomhillfarm.org. Alexandria, Minnesota, a year-round destination with hundreds of lakes, trails, and attractions for memorable vacations and events. More information at explorealex.com. The Lake Region Arts Council's Arts Calendar, an arts and cultural heritage funded digital calendar showcasing upcoming art events and opportunities for artists in West Central Minnesota, on the web at lrac4calendar.org.
For thousands of years, Native American plains and woodland Indian tribes traveled great distances to the sacred pipestone quarries, where stone used to fashion ceremonial pipes was found. At the Pipestone National Monument, Native Americans still quarry the red pipestone, and visitors are invited to see how it's done.
I was born and raised here in Pipestone, Minnesota, my whole life basically, and I am enrolled with the Sisseton-Wahpeton Dakota Nation as a quarter blood, 1/4. The best thing that I like about coming down here to quarry, if you can picture it, this is my buddy. This is someone who listens to my problems. This is someone who, you've had a hard day, you come down here and you sit on the quartzite. In a spiritual way, quartzite rock, no matter where you find it, is grounding energy. So I'll sit here and I'll lay down some tobacco, and then I'll sit on the quartzite and just, you can call it meditation, we call it whatever you will, but I just tuning in to my elements around me. And it's a very, very powerful place that you can feel the energy and feel like freedom.
The National Monument was created to preserve the quarries that they quarry the stone for pipestone. And they use the stone mainly for peace pipes as well as religious ceremonies. Native Americans were granted the right to always access the quarries. And so if they are a member of a federally recognized tribe, they are allowed to come and quarry pipestone.
When they found pipestone rock, it's basically as a compressed clay. It's soft, it's the color of red, the color of blood, the essence of what keeps your body alive. Most of what you're going to see in a rubble pile, especially the purpley, hazy color, is the quartzite. We have a vein that we're working with that's 14 to 16 inches thick. And you're taking off your top layer, and then after we take the undesirable layer off, then we get to the bottom layer, which in my opinion is the prize. The bottom layer is the prize. It's a pliable material. You can smoke the pipe with many people and the pipe bowl can get hot, but you set it down off to the side and it cools down fairly quickly, and there's no fractures, there's no warpage, there's nothing. The pipe is just as strong as it was the day it came out of the quarries.
Craziest thing I've ever seen is we come into Charlesville, Minnesota. That's between here and Breckenridge, and we seen some cattle on the track, and we figured, well, that's kind of unusual, kind of usual, you know. But we got a little closer, then I could see it was a red bull, and this red bull, he kind of stood and looked at us, and then when we got, I'd say, about 100 yards from it, he started putting his head down, you know, and he got a little closer. He started using his hoof and he was going to show us who was boss. Well, we hit him and we just pulverized him. And then the good thing, we had a new brakeman, and he had never worked on a trip before. And the first thing he did, he put his head out the window and wanted to see what happened. Well, the good thing I grabbed him and pulled him back in, because one of the legs of the bull went right by and broke the window, and he maybe would have got killed. So that was pretty unusual. That's one thing I never did forget.
With the Barnum and Bailey circus trains, when the train would actually park at Midway over in the Twin Cities, it was quite an event. The animals in their cages would be wagons, wooden-wheeled wagons, and the elephants would head down the main streets of St. Paul or Minneapolis, headed to their big circus tent or the state fairgrounds from the railroad siding where they would park the train. Is everybody wanted to come and see the circus heading down the street from the railroad yard off to the tent.
Willmar is one of the best railroad smaller railroad towns in Minnesota, and it's been noted for that. It's kind of a headquarters, because the trains went to St. Cloud and they went to Sioux City, and we had locals going out of here. They went to Watertown, so it was kind of a hub. And people always, even people that lived in West Coast, they always talked about the Willmar.
I can't imagine a town like Willmar without a railroad. This railroad that runs through Willmar, the railroads that run through other towns in western Minnesota, are the through points of a lot of products that are passing through from the west coast of the United States to Chicago and the east coast, and vice versa.
And I like to be busy, and I like to have a challenge. And the biggest challenge we had on the railroad was the weather. We had to put up with all kinds of weather, snowstorms, and we went out and plowed snow, you know, or left Willmar, and the snow banks were 4 or 5 feet high, but if we could get a pretty good speed on, we could go quite a ways through a drift.
Welcome to Postcards. I'm Dana Johnson. Today we're traveling to the Center for the Arts in Fergus Falls, and we'll meet up with a Minnesota-based dance company, Regamala. In 2011, Regamala's artistic directors, Ronnie and Aparna, were named Artists of the Year by the Minneapolis Star-Tribune. Now, Regamala's award-winning dancers will share with us their vibrant dance, inspired by the traditions of South India.
My dance company is called Ragamala Dance. I founded it in 1992. Actually, the style of dance that's performed is Bharatanatyam, which is a 2,000-year-old art form that thrived in the Hindu temples. The dance form Bharatanatyam comes from 4 Indian words. Bha is for bhava, which means expression, Ra for raga, which is melody, and Ta for tala, which means rhythm, and Natyam in the Indian language means to dance. So it's a dance form that has all these aspects in it.
Today at the Arrowwood Resort is our 28th annual boat show, classic boat show. It started out with just a few folks who had amateurly restored boats and gathered together to kind of display different craft, and it's growing. So today there is 35 beautiful craft in the water, another 20 exhibits on land. It has become more of a social gathering where other people or other nonprofits from the area show their wares. It's free, it's open to the public, it's very well attended because it has a festive carnival atmosphere. Very interesting people display unique pieces out there. There's always something cool and unique that shows up, besides the traditional beautiful mahogany boats. This event connects people with a wide spectrum of history, from the early wood boats and their elegance and the part that they played in their time period, to the 50s fiberglass, to more of the modern ski jet wake boat.
And you know, from the stage, when you perform, I had a concert that night, you're not supposed to directly politic. You can't say, all right, everybody, let's hear it for Eugene McCarthy, because there will be an objection, because people will say, I didn't come here to hear you politics. So at least that was the convention then. Now, so I had to work it out. So before Blowing in the Wind, there was an introduction. And at that point, I said, tonight we are dedicating this song to somebody who carries on the tradition of what these songs are all about and what this song Blowing in the Wind is all about, which says, you know, how many roads must a man walk down before they call him a man? How many seas must a white dove sail?
How many seas must a white dove sail before she sleeps in the sand?
Yes, and how many times must the cannonballs fly
before they're forever banned? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
So here we were. This is Christopher Michael McCarthy Arrow. Obviously, not even an idea at the time.
That's my name.
That is Christopher.
My full name.
Right. So I got on stage and I said, look, we want to honor somebody here who carries this tradition of this song and what Peter Paul may believe in. I'd like to acknowledge in the audience the niece of Senator Eugene McCarthy. And I gestured to her, and up she rose, and I prearranged the lights, swooped down her, and the audience burst into enormous acclamation. Not for her, for Eugene McCarthy. But we allowed us. They didn't know her. Yes, they were delighted she was there, but it was to say yes to Eugene McCarthy. And then when they looked at her, they were delighted because she had a huge bouquet of roses in her arms.
I had the high school boyfriend, the very passionate, oh, we were gonna get married. I was gonna live on the Indian reservation with him. We were gonna have a ranch. We were together for 5 very long, passionate months. And then we broke up. I just remember like him chasing my car, shirtless, with no shoes on, in the middle of the street, like running after my car. And he was like crying, like, come back, come back. And I wasn't like, I can't. I was just like, that really happens. Wow, I'm in a movie right now. And that, I kind of got a little cynical about relationships after that, because I was like, that's just unrealistic. That's just, put some shoes on, man. Put a shirt on, you're in public.
Thank you, Angel and Desiree.
How are you?
Do you like my hair?
Yeah.
Are you gonna braid it for me?
Yeah.
Yes. Gisela Bell.
A little over 2 years ago, my son joined me in the studio, and it's been a lot of fun to have him here. He's got his own work, but we share a studio.
Working with my dad is interesting. You know, if you would have told me I would be doing this as a kid, I would have told you were crazy. It took me years until I was in probably high school to realize that this isn't a normal life. And that's when I started realizing how really cool and fortunate I was.
This lifestyle actually has a lot of positives to it. As a dad, I was at home all the time and working with my son, and he's going to be a dad soon, and I think it'll probably be the same for him.
We have this dynamic that I don't think a lot of other people or artists even get to have. We even have this kind of, almost like a game, whereas, you know, you get that spark of imagination, that the initial idea, that light bulb over your head, and you're just like, come here, come here, come here. All right, and you explain it all, and you set up with like bits to stand in for other bits and to convey your idea, and you're just like, cool or lame? Because there's such a fine line between something that's really going to be cool and captivating and something that's kind of hokey and lame. And you always kind of tend to be right on that edge. And it's just, you know, he thinks like I do, I think like he does. It's something that I honestly don't think we could have the dynamic with anybody else.
You can't describe it sometimes. And every time you pour a plate, I know what the chemical compositions are. I know how they react to each other. So you basically know what's going to happen. But every time you pour the fixer on that plate and it blooms in front of you in your hands, it's like magic every time.
I think it's important to know that in this great state where we have baseball is a part of our tradition, it would be good to know all of the players that were very good players, regardless of what they look like. If they were a good baseball player, we should talk about them as a baseball player first, and then as an individual second, of who they were, what color they may have been. It really shouldn't matter.
I think town ball has been important to these small rural communities in that it gives a community a reason to be in a town in a time when towns are losing population. They've helped build and help sustain a sense of cohesiveness in these small rural communities. And that's been important ever since the first baseball player stepped onto one of those pastures and picked up a baseball bat.
We kind of did a reenactment of Iwo Jima, and as a drummer I got to turn around, face the flag, the whole band did, and they set up the Iwo Jima pose with the American flag. And so I got to face the crowd, and pretty much every time there would be a veteran there saluting the flag. It was really powerful.
It just really touched all of us. It was super quiet at the end. Like, you always expect people to cheer super loud, but everyone had their hands on their hearts, and it was just really quiet and really an emotional time for everyone, but I thought it was really cool.
And I believe veterans, the reason they supported this adventure, this event so much was, I believe they are fearful of their stories being lost and forgotten. They love talking to the kids about it because they're so afraid they're not learning about it. And they want their stories told. They want them to learn their stories.
But now they're seeing firsthand with the boxcar, you know, our models and our photos here, and very moving. And I think it's something that the people here that have come to visit have walked away with, so they can't believe it, what happened. And we got to learn something from some of this history to keep that from happening, and it's very important that we keep telling the story.
And sure enough, the Kakatoa attacked. And of course, the first day one they attacked was the chief's teepee. They went in, but they quickly fled, backed out of the teepee, and they fled. They went back to the lake.
Part of what we're doing here at the museum is to really focus on storytelling and what fuels artistic creativity and curiosity.
My heart wanted to jump out of my chest. I was so scared of that back then. I've been burned many times. I've lit my hand on fire, my hair, cut my legs. Doing one move, the knife came really close, nicked the back of my hair. I was wanting to give yourself a haircut.
After Tater got burned really pretty bad, I got really scared to dance for a while, but got over that. We are Kiki Fire and Light, and it's just me and my brothers and sisters, and we spin fire.
You know you can watch Postcards on your TV, but did you also know you can watch Postcards and other Pioneer shows anywhere, anytime using Pioneer On Demand at video.pioneer. Postcards is made possible by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota. Additional support provided by Margaret A. Cargill Philanthropies, Mark and Margaret Yackel-Julien on behalf of Shalom Hill Farms, a retreat and conference center in a prairie setting near Windham, Minnesota. On the web at shalomhillfarm.org. Alexandria, Minnesota, a year-round destination with hundreds of lakes, trails, and attractions for memorable vacations and events. More information at explorealex.com. The Lake Region Arts Council's Arts Calendar, an arts and cultural heritage funded digital calendar showcasing upcoming art events and opportunities for artists in West Central Minnesota. On the web at lrac4calendar.org.